Welcome to the Open Forum in the Villages, Florida podcast. In this show, we talk to leaders in the community, leaders of clubs, and interesting folks who live here in the Villages to get perspectives of what is happening here in the Villages, Florida. We are a listener-supported podcast. There will be shout-outs for supporters in episodes. In Season 6, we will continue making substantial improvements to the podcast.
This is Mike Roth. And listeners, I'm thrilled to share with you this podcast, which is my passion project for you. This podcast brings me joy, brings you knowledge, inspiration, and a lot of things that people need to know about the Villages and the people living here. Be sure to hit the follow button to get the newest episode each week. Creating this podcast is a labor of love, even though it demands more time than I can easily spare. Now, here's where you come in. You can help us keep the podcast alive and thriving. How? By becoming a supporter. The easy way for you to support us is to visit our podcast webpage, openforuminthevillagesflorida.com, and click on the supporter button at the top of the page, or the purple supporter box on the right side of the page. Even a small donation of $3 to $10 a month makes a big difference. And guess what? You can cancel your subscription at any time. No strings attached. Your support means the world to us. Stay curious, stay inspired, and keep those headphones on. I hope everyone enjoys today's show. I'm here today with Jeanne Engle, a noted performer and genius here in the Villages. Jeanne, thanks for joining me.
I'm glad to be here, Mike. Thank you for inviting me.
Jeanne, as a villager, is still having fun and learning. After 3/4 of a century on this planet, Jeanne still has a lot to learn. With her diverse professional experience and background in human resources and management, fundraising, and writing, Jeanne has found more ways to grow new skills and interests later in life. Listening to her story and hear how you, too, can keep learning and growing, or even renewing in this chapter of your life. Jeanne, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself before you came to the Village, or like where you grew up?
Okay, I grew up in Wisconsin. It was more northwest Wisconsin, so we didn't watch the Packers because it was not aired in our market. I went to the University of Wisconsin in Madison. Some call it the Berkeley of the Midwest. It was a good time to be there during the anti-war years, and sometimes they just threw out the grades. Lucky me. Then after that, I stayed.
Oh, they didn't put them down on paper anyway.
No, you could choose your own grade. It was wonderful. And you could either go with the letter grade, or you could just say, I wanted to take the course pass-fail. So I got all these passes, which was just wonderful in terms of a final grade point average.
Gee,
but that's neither here nor there. I stayed then in Madison for another 46 years, and I worked for many different organizations. I had a total of 4 careers while I was there, and several jobs within each one of those careers, but I was always based in Madison or the general vicinity thereof.
Mm-hmm. 4 careers.
Yes.
I caught the one about human resources. We used to call it personnel.
So did we. I'm old.
Okay. What were the other 3 careers?
After personnel, there was my self-employment years, and I called myself a training and organization development specialist.
Ah, that's when you got smart.
That's exactly right. And after that, my career was fundraising, and I was actually we call sales in the not-for-profit world fundraising. And then after that, I did a little more self-employment and stuff in the gig economy, as the kids call it these days. And then finally landed the writing gig where I submit articles every other month for a magazine back where I came from in Madison, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you been here in the Villages?
We first came almost 10 years ago, and then we drank the Kool-Aid 2 years after that, bought on the historic side, stayed there for about 3.5 years, and moved now to the northern side of the Villages.
Okay. Why did you try to get into stand-up comedy, something you'd never done before?
Oh, I've been a performer all my life. I was thinking about why I am doing this. And I've been in front of groups, whether they're large or small, whether it was something that was scripted or something that I had to improvise in front of the large group. And being a trainer as I was, it's not a big step from training to entertainment, as we called it.
Right.
It's the same idea in terms of being in front of the group. And every now and then, if you can get them all laughing at the same time, you got them right there in the palm of your hand, and maybe they'll even learn something. I had taken a couple of improvisation workshops before, when I was in my early 40s. And then after I got here, I saw that there was an open mic night. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to do this because this whole comedy thing is something that I've wanted to do for a while now. But I didn't have the venue in terms of an open mic night. So I said, I'll do it. And I did it. And now I've been on that stage for more than 40 times.
40 performances
at the Bohemian Spotlight Cafe at Paradise Rec Center the first Saturday night of every month.
How has your professional experience served you in the world of stand-up comedy?
I'll tell you, when you are in personnel, as we called it back then, you have contact with just about everybody in your organization. Now, granted, I did not work for multinational, huge, hundreds of thousands of employees organizations, but I did work in organizations that had between 500 and 1,000 employees. And so because I was the first point of contact in many cases, I got to know all of these people, and you learn about the quirks and foibles and the good stuff as well. Mm-hmm. And so I had an opportunity to be observing so many different people throughout the course of my career. And so it's a matter of finding the type that's representative of other people. Like when I perform now here in the Villages, I got to come up with scenarios about old people. And
no kidding, we have old people in the Villages?
Yeah, can you imagine that?
Yeah, I've seen some 100-year-old. I'm actually trying to get a podcast together with a survivor of D-Day.
Oh.
He's 99 years old.
Oh, okay. Good luck with that. Good luck with that.
But they say he's sharp as a tack, and I say, that's okay.
Oh, yeah, that would be a wonderful story to hear. And then as a trainer, of course, I was up in front of groups. And so the groups usually were smaller, but oftentimes there would be a presentation that I would have to make in front of a couple hundred people. So when we get a full house at the Bohemian Spotlight Cafe, there's probably almost as many people as I have talked to in the past in one group.
How many people, Jeannie, actually show up at the Bohemian Spotlight Cafe?
I think it's usually between 100 and 200.
Let's take a short break and listen to an Alzheimer's tip from Dr. Craig Curtis. Dr. Curtis, what can someone do if they know that they have Alzheimer's that runs in their family?
There's a lot that they can do. Published actually in the Journal of the American Medical Association in February of 2024, so this month. This was a study done primarily at Rush University in Chicago, looking at those with brain amyloid. So those people that already have amyloid, can a healthy lifestyle protect them from developing dementia? And the answer was yes, by following these five healthy habits that were tracked. And those were they did not smoke, they did moderate exercise for at least 150 minutes a week, they kept their alcohol consumption diet, and they used autopsies. They actually used approximately 530 autopsies to prove that those that followed those healthy lifestyle habits or had those healthy lifestyle habits actually had less amyloid. It correlated. Those had less amyloid in their brain.
With over 20 years of experience studying brain health, Dr. Curtis's goal is to educate the Villages community on how to live a longer, healthier life. To learn more, visit his website, craigcurtismd.com, or call 352-500-5252 to attend a free seminar.
Thank you, Dr. Curtis. Jeanne, have you developed any new skills here in the villages that you find necessary to be a better stand-up performer?
I'm not sure about if it helps, but yeah, it does, because there's always something that you can say about the game. For example, I learned how to play pétanque. I call it bocce ball meets horseshoes meets shot put, because you're using a steel ball about the size of a shot put that you toss at a smaller target ball like you would in bocce. But instead of rolling it like you do in bocce, you toss it like you would horseshoes. And the objective of the game is to get your closest to the target ball without other people getting in the way, like your other teammates. The way that I talk about pétanque is that it's the only time you can openly admire a man's balls, and the women have a pair too.
And it's poor form to hit someone with your ball.
Absolutely. It's not a good idea. So anyhow, I learned how to play pétanque, which was really fun. And we met a lot of people because we would always get mixed up in terms of different teams. Mm-hmm. And you'd meet people and you'd learn about them. And that was really fun. And then I took a card making class, several card making classes. These couple women offered it. One was from Wisconsin, and I would just go every other week, and we would make these greeting cards.
Oh, greeting cards.
Greeting cards, yeah. And I had dabbled in my own creations, and now I've discovered another outfit that would provide the material that would make for prettier cards. And so when the pandemic came, I started ordering a lot of stuff, and it was easy enough to be able to pick it up from the post office during that time because everything was no contact. And then I'm now into a group called Fun with Art. And I don't mean the guy who's at City Fire every Tuesday. Actually,
sounds like it came out of your stand-up routine.
Do you think what we do there is bring whatever project that we're working on, and it's more of a socializing time, which is really fun. And there's mostly a lot of women, and then sometimes every several weeks there's a specific project that a person can make. And basically, we are what our name is, Fun with Art. So I've gotten into a variety of...
So Art is the name of the guy at City Fire who plays the guitar?
Yeah, I'm not sure if he plays guitar or not, but probably not, because the guitar would get in the way when he was trying to pick up women. And then we belong to the Tesla Club here, mm-hmm. So I've had to learn to drive a Tesla. That's a new skill. Granted, it's been 4 years now since it's been in my garage, but I had to learn how to drive it, and I'm just fine.
So that's
no accidents.
Yeah, Tesla is a computer with 4 wheels.
Right, and it beeps and buzzes at you when you are doing something wrong and you have no idea what it is that you're doing wrong.
Mm-hmm. Does yours open and close the doors and play happy birthday to you on your birthday?
I'm not sure. I've never figured out all that toy box stuff. I have to leave that to the grand boys.
Yeah, you need some good 13-year-olds to...
Oh, no, 8, 10. The 8 and 10-year-olds, they're good with it, too. Mm-hmm. They know how to do it. And then my latest thing is I got a ukulele from my wonderful partner, mm-hmm. Rick, for Christmas, and I took ukulele lessons. And now I need to play it in private before I can play it in public.
It might be a good to your stand-up comedy.
That's what I was thinking. That I could incorporate that somehow. Mm-hmm. But I'm not to the point where I can play the chords, hit the right strings, and remember all of the chords and the words and all that at the same time. I need more playing time.
Yeah, unless it's a stand-up routine, it doesn't actually have to be in tune.
Yeah, that's it too. But I've seen a good stand-up comic who plays guitar or some stringed instrument, and she's good because she both can be funny and she can sing and play at the same time. Mm-hmm. Now, that is not my aspiration.
Okay. I thought it was going to be ballet dancing and playing the guitar at the same time.
There's probably some who do that, but it ain't going to be me.
Okay. No ballet. And Jeanne, what kind of advice would you like to give to our listeners, fellow villagers, potential villagers who want to thrive in their later years in life?
First of all, I would say ask yourself, what is something that you've always wanted to do, maybe since you were a kid or perhaps later on in life? Was there something that you were passionate about at one point in your life? Sometimes what happens is we give up passion for a job, and then we have to really dig to find out what that passion was and how we can reconnect with it. So that would be one thing I would suggest that people do. And then another thing would be were there certain skills that you acquired during your professional working life that you would still like to use now in retirement? I know that there are people who say, oh God, I would never do that again. For example, I would never do personnel again, but the socialization, that's fine. If there's a part of it, that's okay. But there are certain things that I've done that I would do again. Probably fundraising, because I'm not afraid to ask people for money. Probably teaching a class or something, but I've done that. I've facilitated a couple of the art groups that gathered for Fun for Art. So I've used a skill that I liked and that I still like. So think about that. Are there things that you've done and skills that you've learned or knowledge that you've acquired that you would like to use again in your retirement years? And then finally, for the men in our audience, what does your wife tell you to do? Get out of the house.
I like that one. Jeannie, let's spend the last few minutes of this podcast talking about your involvement with the Improving Comedy Club here in the Villages. And let's talk a little bit about why people should come down to learn how to do a little bit of stand-up or scripted comedy. Maybe that's the first piece of understanding people have to have, is that stand-up is scripted comedy.
Yes, that's a good point, Mike, in terms of, I don't know, maybe we need to go back to some of the basics as far as comedy is concerned. And what I had been thinking about and spoke with Rebecca Zellinan, who is the leader, founder of, or the taker over of this particular group. It's been through, this is the second iteration, anyhow, that I know of. So I think people going back to basics, like recognizing that, yeah, we're going to work on stand-up in this particular group. We might do some other stuff. Maybe we'll do a little improv or a little sketch. But what we're trying to help people do is to be better, or do it, period, be stand-up comedians. And it's not like you have to think about, oh, I got to have an hour's worth of material. It's 5 minutes to begin with, 3 maybe. Be able to tell 2 jokes consistently, or a short, quick story or something. Anyhow, I think it's important to think about who our favorite comics are. Who are the people that we like to watch and listen to? And then what is it that they do? Why do we like them? What is it that they do? Do they have good timing? Do they have good facial expressions? Do they have good, all of the nonverbal kind of stuff? And so that the
physicality.
Yeah, the physicality. And if they move or don't or whatever. And so trying to identify the kinds of things that you like, because that's the kind of stuff you want to be able to do. Mm-hmm.
This is being pretty presumptuous.
I think another question that people can answer is, what skills do you think are needed to be a good comedian? Based on maybe what you've seen or what you know, what you like, that kind of thing. And so then look at those skills. Do you have those skills? Maybe you've used those skills in some other way in your professional life, and they can be transferred.
Well, remembering is important.
Comedy.
Remembering what you want to say.
Yeah, it's a good thing to be able to memorize. And there are a lot of tricks for doing that, and that's another story.
But you can't mumble.
Oh, no.
The audience has to be able to hear what you're actually saying.
They have to have their hearing aids turned up.
That's true. Or they can't leave them at home.
Exactly. And then finally, I wanted to know, just in general, what kind of questions people have about stand-up comedy. And whatever they have, maybe they want to know about using props. Maybe they want to know about how much physicality. Maybe they want to know about characters. Are they a character or are they real? Those kinds of questions. So I would be interested in hearing what people would have to ask.
That would be something that people can bring with them, those questions, to the Improving Comedy meetings, which happen the second and fourth Friday of the month at Coral Rec Center.
From 7 to 9 p.m.
On a
maybe.
Friday
night. Hey, what else you got to do on a Friday night? Come and have a few laughs.
Yeah, or learn how to make other people laugh.
Exactly, because laughter is good for the soul.
Let's talk a couple of minutes about some stand-up learning techniques that people can have. Because at those meetings, we usually give out a little notebook. And we ask people about an incident that happened in their life that has a comical twist to it, or a possible comical twist. And then we ask people to read those aloud, and then we punch them up.
I think one of the techniques of being able to punch something up is something called reframing, or in other words, putting a twist on something. And sometimes the reframe comes real easy. The twist is obvious, and other times you have to think about it a bit. So we need to have twisted minds.
Sure. Like we did before we started. I asked you, what kind of car did you learn how to drive on? And you said it was a
Ford Blue.
And what kind of transmission did it have?
I learned how to drive on a stick.
And I said, gee, that's much better than a broom.
But so many people out there would say to me, Jeannie, you really should be on your broomstick.
Okay. And I'm going to give our listeners a little tip that I think all of the great stand-ups have, is they bring the beginning of the routine back to the end, or the end brings the beginning back. They make it, I'm going to call it full circle. In some way at the end, in the last 60 seconds, they refresh and go back to the beginning, which is a kind of similar technique that we use in improv called reach back, where you take stuff that happened at the beginning and you use it in some of the routines. It makes people feel good because they remember the beginning, and then you refresh them with a joke or a punchline at the end that remembers the beginning.
Of course.
That's right. It's funny you said remember. I'm a member of the Magic Club, and I've learned more than a few card tricks. And one of the things that I didn't learn in the club, but I learned when I was performing it in a public setting, was always ask the person who picks a card to write the card name and suit down on a slip of paper, because they forget. I can pull the right card out of the deck, but they won't recognize it. That early Alzheimer's thing really hurts short-term memory.
May I adapt that line of yours, please?
Sure.
Okay, good. That's another thing that successful stand-ups have. Our writers, except for when they do their 1-hour Netflix specials, they're only written by that one person.
Really?
I have you ever not watched the credits?
Oh, I know. I've watched the credits, but you're asking me, do I believe the credits? And my answer is no. This is a Hollywood production, and there might be 12 people behind the scenes. Only 1 or 2 may get credit. For a long time, it took me a lot of time to believe that Saturday Night actually had writers and chief writers.
I'll tell you what, Mike. When I make my Netflix 1-hour comedy special, there will be a special line just for you.
Okay, a special line.
Inside the credits.
Inside the credits. Okay. I'll be looking for that. I'm actually going to have to wait up and stay alive long enough to make sure that I see it.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to stay alive to make sure I can film it.
Sure. You won't actually be doing the filming. They'll have a cameraman or 2.
You're right.
That's right. If necessary, I'll wheel you out on stage in a wheelchair. Make sure you do your routine. That might be a funny way to start. Start the routine and get wheeled out in the wheelchair, get into a walker, and then throw the walker away during the routine.
Oh, I see. I'm not a real physical comedian, comic. What's the difference between a comedian and a comic? A comic stands up and does funny lines, whereas a comedian can do funny lines in another place, like a film or a TV series. Yeah, that's a line directly from my hand to your face.
Yes, that does happen in comedy. Jeannie, if our listeners want to find out more about the Bohemian Spotlight Cafe, how do they do that?
The Bohemian Spotlight Cafe does have a Facebook page. You can go there, look under Bohemian Spotlight Cafe, ask to join. We have this wonderful videographer, I guess that's what she is, who takes videos of the acts many of the months, and then she posts them on the site. So you can get a sense of what kind of entertainment you would find at the Bohemian Spotlight Cafe.
And it really is quite varied.
Oh, very much.
Tell our listeners the kind of acts that are there.
Some people sing with their own accompaniment. Some people accompany themselves with guitar, with piano. Some people just play piano. Some people do karaoke where they see the words and the music is playing in the background. Some people do silly skits. Some people do stuff that somebody else has written. Some people do original stuff. And then there's people who, like me, actually, I'm the only one, who do, no, that's not true. There are some other people that do comedy, but
there are some other people that do comedy.
There are some other people that do comedy, but I've probably been doing it the longest.
Okay. Any animal acts?
No.
People don't bring out their dogs to do tricks?
There might have been. Oh, no, I don't think so. I can't remember if I've ever seen an animal on stage.
Yeah, okay. That would probably be against the rules because you can't bring a dog into a rec center unless he's a service support animal with a certificate.
Okay.
Good. Jeannie, thanks for being with us today.
It was a pleasure, Mike. Thank you again for inviting me, and I hope that this sounds good.
Okay, and if you want to join us and meet Jeannie in person at the Improving Comedy Workshops meetings, those are the second and fourth Fridays, 7 to 9 p.m. at the Bacall Recreation Center. Thanks again, Jeannie.
You're welcome.
Remember, our next episode will be released next Friday at 9 a.m. Should you want to become a major supporter of the show or have questions, please contact us at mike@rothvoice.com. This is a shout-out for supporters Tweet Coleman, Ed Williams, Paul Sorgen, and major supporter Dr. Craig Curtis at K2 in the Villages. We will be hearing more from Dr. Curtis with short Alzheimer's tips each week. If you know someone who should be on the show, contact us at mike@rothvoice.com. We thank everyone for listening to the show. The content of the show is copyrighted by Roth Voice 2024. All rights reserved.